Right. Hello, everyone. I'm Professor McCoy. Good evening. Welcome back to Mass Effect Andromeda once it loads. Don't know why this is taking a little while, but I figured I would start the stream as soon as it was ready. And it's not quite ready, but, close enough. Anyway, hello. Good evening. Welcome. We would at least get some nice menu music, but it's not even ready yet. I'm disappointed. I'm snacking a bit. What do you expect me to do? Die? Anyway. Um, so, anyway. So we made some serious progress last week, or 2 weeks ago, I suppose, last stream in Andromeda. Um, Serious progress in the story. We actually got to the Archon's flagship. We saved the Solarian Arc, brought it back to the Nexus, started moving some things forward, both politically, practically, militarily, even despite the various problems that I keep yammering on about with respect to the initiative. But shaders. I should have just waited, but oh well. In any case, we made some serious progress as far as the plot goes, as far as the main story goes. But you know what that means in an RPG like Mass Effect that in a CRPG, that means that we're back to side quests, and it's probably going to be at least this week and next week, maybe some more of pure side quests until we get back to the main plot. Because once we get back to the main plot, there are two or three major story missions left before we're done. That's it. Um, it's actually something I've mentioned before that a lot of people commented about Andromeda that it's hard to notice right away, but once you notice, it's very obvious. And it's that the actual main story, the actual main plot of Mass Effect Andromeda is actually very short. There, if you go sort of straight line through the main plot of the game, you can finish it in, I would say, if you're really going for it, 6 to 8 hours, and that's not speed running. That's probably, I would say, without exploits. There might be exploits that make it shorter. I kind of doubt it, but maybe. Um, but going at a reasonable pace, there's probably only about 6 or 7 hours of core story, main story to the game. However, if you do all the planetary quests, if you do all the companion quests, if you do the various side missions and things, and not even just the tasks, because the sort of collection tasks, the things I've been just sort of doing passively and mostly ignoring, that's its own thing. I don't know if I've ever 100%ed it. Actually, no, I did. I did once 100% this game. I did it. Um, More or less just to say that I did. But I have 100%ed this game, and man, there's a lot to do. A lot of it's sort of rote collection kind of stuff. But I will say that the environmental design is good enough that the silly rote collection quests are not bad. They're actually kind of enjoyable. Just because you're moving around these really cool, well-designed worlds. Um, I think the only real exception to that is that driving on Eladin has a novelty to it, but it gets old relatively quickly. And why I say that is because it's very cool to have to deal with the up and down slopes and the big dunes and the big worm and all that stuff. And the vast, vast distances between things with a heat hazard before you do the vault. All that up in the Ataraxian desert up there in the sort of northern half of the map, all that's really cool. But man, those distances are huge, and the more you drive around there, the more you realize that having to manage going uphill versus downhill and moving around the dunes is kind of a pain. So why is it still building shaders? This is weird. The game has never taken this long to load. To be fair, I haven't loaded in 3 days, 3 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks, 2 weeks, and 3 weeks, 2 weeks, I guess. There haven't been any updates though, so I don't know. Anyway, I suppose we'll just wait on it. In any case, though, other than that, really, I have to say that the level design is phenomenal. It's really really good. I think that the design of the worlds is excellent, and it's very different from um what I was sort of expecting. Right? Because we all kind of went into Andromeda early on, like the first few trailers and the first few concepts and such, um, with a very different view of what the game was going to be in mind. I think that we all really thought it was going to be something more like No Man's Sky, something more like Starfinder, or at least what Starfinder is uh, looking like it's going to be. Is it Starfinder? The Bethesda one, whatever that is. Um, because they were talking about things like procedural generation of planets and things like that, and having tons and tons of planets to explore. Having it basically be the premise of Mass Effect One, just expanded outwards Ooh. with you know, an additional 8 years of technology to build on it. But that radically changed. And I also think that part of the issue was that the development cycle for the game was very odd. It got caught in some problems. It had to be completely reworked. All kinds of issues happened with this game that I think led to it being mediocre at launch. I think a lot of that's been fixed, but I still think that it's still building shaders again. Are you serious? What is happening? I say the glitches are no longer there, and then I get this. Jeez, man. Never. Anyway, the major sort of meme-worthy glitches, the character animation stuff, that's pretty much gone. The director Addison, my face is tired. That got fixed. Thank God. That was disturbing. But I will say, still, they did use a lot of AI and procedural stuff, very early AI and procedural stuff, to animate a lot of the. They animate a lot of the side NPCs, and it kind of does show, because it's a lack of body language. I think the issue. A lot of it is there are facial expressions and facial animations, and that's pretty good. But the body isn't, like, the NPCs' bodies are not moving around. Their head isn't tilting. Their hands aren't moving. They don't do the signature Commander Shepard thumb point back thing, which is a little bit Harrison Ford. Little bit. What else am I thinking? Almost a little bit Full Metal Jacket or something? I don't know. It's a very distinctive Commander Shepard animation, if you will. But that sort of thing is missing. The animated discussions, the conversations with NPCs that where the NPC actually like moves around a bit, talks in an animated fashion. Hey, Phoenix. Cut during your tea break. Now I will say, your tea break may only be a loading screen, so I apologize. But enjoy the gorgeous music. Anyway, but I think that really is a subtle reminder how much of human communication is subverbal. I say subverbal to include both nonverbal communication and also tonal, because that's something that this game does fine. I don't think there are really any problems with the voice acting. The voice acting is actually pretty great, for the most part. It's acted well, personally. Acted well, certainly. That's actually one of the issues that I think that sort of AI voice acting is going to miss out on. I don't know if it can handle, at least not yet, I don't know if it can handle tone very well. I mean, you can sort of give it direction to some degree, but It's certainly not there yet, and I don't know if it... Well, I've said it before. I don't know if it'll get there, but... I don't know if it'll get there as far as actually speaking in a tone that actually conveys meaning. Happy Phoenix asked what I think of G.K. Chesterton. He says, I've been looking into him lately. If it's not too distracting, I'd like to know your thoughts. No, absolutely. It's fine. I like him. He is a great... was a great aphorist, first of all. He's incredibly pithy. He has excellent, short, little sayings that really capture the essence of what he's trying to say. He's incredibly good at that sort of thing. He also does a very good job capturing ideas that should be obvious but aren't obvious to us in well, I guess in his time, in his setting, but a lot of it applies to us as well. 120 so odd years later, give or take. And I think he does a good job of boiling down issues and giving voice to what should be the obvious, but turns out not to be. That said, I think he's got issues, and his issues are mostly political economic, because Chesterton and Hilaire Belloc have a earned reputation for being the sort of trying to chart this sort of third way between capitalism and socialism, generally referred to as distributism. It's an attempt to embody Catholic social teaching into a robust political and economic theory. The problem is that it's not the least bit robust. It's barely an economic theory. It's certainly not Catholic, and it's unquestionably destructive to any society that would attempt to implement it. Distributism, it takes the worst aspects of capitalism and the worst aspects of socialism while trying to improve on both of them. It can't do it. Right? It is functionally speaking just socialism with an odd veneer of farmland agrarianism, with some of the ideals of free market capitalism, but without the tools that capitalism would use to implement those tools, namely private property. Right? Distributists hold that private property should be the ultimate goal for everybody. Everyone should own their own property, their own private productive property. Wonderful, fantastic, good in theory. However, they undermine the entire concept of private property in order to try and achieve that, because the whole idea of distributism is that private property should be distributed as broadly as possible. Okay, distributed is an active verb. That means that it has to come from somewhere, meaning it has to come from someone's property to make it someone else's. It's socialism. That's all it is. It's an old-time farm aesthetic socialism that gives lip service to Catholic social teaching, but it's horrific, inhumane, destructive. It also doesn't understand things like economies of scale, like at all. It also doesn't understand things like it takes a lot of here we go. It takes a lot of Marx's political ideas seriously, to the point where they absolutely should not be. Meaning Chesterton, really does this in particular. He actually thinks that he actually takes Marxist exploitation theory seriously. Basically, the idea that a wage relationship.
I hope the Solarians find
a
place on the Nexus.
I'll see if I can cut some of that.
We came to Andromeda because we had a
into a
contribution
short. It's a good idea.
The cat won't take that away.
Yeah, it takes Marx's exploitation theory seriously. Meaning Chesterton and Belloc. They take Marx's exploitation theory, which is the idea that a wage relationship is intrinsically exploitative, meaning that the profit of a capitalist is necessarily excess. It should be an employee's wage that has been extracted from the employee, to benefit the business owner,
Almost off our star charts.
which is obvious
Considering
nonsense.
what they were up against, your explorers made it a long way out.
It completely fails to account for anything like mutual advantage in any kind of voluntary relationship, which mutual advantage in a voluntary relationship is absolutely fundamental to anyone's understanding, any reasonable understanding of social theory. It's the Misesian insight that any voluntary relationship is necessarily
I'm
mutually
picking up
beneficial.
something.
With no exceptions. There can be no exceptions to that.
Probe away. Tracking a huge mineral deposit.
Planet. Effects flash through magnetosphere over a temperate, mineral-rich surface. Only the lack of liquid water. Well, what's all that blue? Lack of liquid water. What's with the blue? This planet looks like absolutely beautiful. Surface temperature 51. That's kind of high. Kind of low atmospheric pressure. But okay, you know what? I think we can work with that. Crash a bunch of comets into it. See what we can do there. Anyway, my diatribe on one of many I've given on distributism aside,
Anomaly on sensors.
I think that Chesterton is phenomenal
Getting a scan.
at Crevasse. I think some of his insights are absolutely incredible. Precisely the kind of thing that a lot more people should pay more attention to. An example being that he was the one who came up with this idea that in our attempts at rebellion from classical ideas, we often will stumble back upon the age-old truth that we were trying to avoid. So, his example is about an explorer, a great British explorer who gets lost at sea, lands on a foreign and alien shore, begins to explore, only to eventually discover that he had discovered southern England. The analogy, of course, being to that great example of when progressives and such will accidentally re-engineer healthy sexual relationship and basically re-engineer marriage when they're talking about, well, I think that if a man wants to have sex with a woman, then he needs to sign a contract that it's consensual and things like that. And it's like, yeah, you're just talking about marriage. That's what marriage is. It's in large part, at least in some part, it is an exchange, a formal exchange of mutual consent, mutual bodily consent, particularly. So there you go. That's a large part of what marriage is. That kind of thing. And Chesterton was, to my knowledge, the first to realize that this sort of thing happens. That particularly progressive types will accidentally rediscover
Very little signal traffic around.
It's pretty remote.
traditional morality and
I wonder
such.
what view of the Milky Way you'd get out here.
The way I think this was in Heretics.
I'm picking
Heretics.
up something. Probe away.
Where
Anomaly found.
I'm gonna go end to end here. Where he said it basically that heretics, in trying to find new heresies, will accidentally rediscover orthodoxy. And that was his journey as well. That was his journey back to Catholicism. Another insight that I think he gets that a lot of people don't get
Anomaly on sensors.
is a fascinating
Probe launched.
symbolic understanding of
Tracking a
suicide,
huge mineral deposit.
which is something I'm not supposed to say on YouTube, but I'm not monetized anyway, so who cares? But he pointed out that that there is something uniquely wrong with suicide, and that to end one's own life is not merely an affront against oneself, or even an affront against what God has created, but it's an affront against, it's a sort of rejection of not just of myself, but of everything else in the world. It is a rejection of the world around you. It is essentially, as he puts it, not just killing yourself, but killing the world, the whole world as far as you're concerned. It is an incredible act of it seems crass to put it this way, but an incredible act of hatred of everything. And so that's part of why he says that, why he thinks that suicide has also always been considered one of the gravest wrongs that you can commit. It's considered from one's own perspective. It is a horrific rejection of not just oneself, but of everything else. Of everything. It's contrary to being itself. Put it that way. What do we get here? False flag of mineral deposits, I guess. What's all this
Anomaly
stuff?
detected. Probe away. Got a reading from the asteroid belt.
A starship. A cat dropship. Interesting. Balloon. One thing I've also been thinking about is that I'm getting closer and closer, gradually, to 1,000 subscribers. I'd like to get there. I'd like to keep going after that. Going further than that, I mean. But I'd like to certainly get there. And so, I think, perhaps, I may have something old of mine, something that I made a very long time ago, a video I made a very long time ago, that I might finish up, polish a bit, and post for everyone
They named the system after
when
a
I hit
Materian
1,000
pioneer,
subscribers.
their first astronaut. It's good to remember these things.
Dara Hagen,
Anomaly detected. Probes
Aryan
launched.
Pioneer.
Got a reading from the asteroid belt.
Anything else? Oops. So I'm thinking about... I should have time between now and then to edit properly. Rework it. But I have something very old, thing that I made a long time ago, that I may want to rework, get going, get up, and post if I actually get to, well, not if, when, because it'll happen eventually, but I'd like for it to be soon, when I eventually get to 1,000 subscribers. Something I think it has nothing to do with my usual content, by the way. It has nothing to do with, nothing really to do with philosophy, very little to do with any of the things I've done on my streams, nothing like that. A old cat ship. Like shuttle? Yep, vessel. Okay, salvageable. Anyway, yes, it would be, I do think that would be quite enjoyable. I think I did a long time ago. I think I like it. I certainly liked doing it. It was I will say it was a bit cringe. Don't worry.
Anomaly detected.
It's a bit how do I say, high school project kind of thing.
Probe away.
But hopefully it's still wonderfully
We've got
enjoyable,
a crater.
and I can get it by I get those 1,000 subscribers and I can get the thing edited and I'll turn this thing loose by then. I will say it'll almost certainly not be monetized. Even if I can get monetization going by then. I also doubt. But just because it uses some copyrighted stuff, copyrighted resources, all of course perfectly fair use, but you know, let me put it this way. I made this way back in a time when there was no expectation of such stringent copytisms as we find these days on YouTube. This was basically when you could just completely re-upload a copyrighted song with impunity and no one would really do anything about it. The good old days when the internet was a wild, free place. The very, very good old days. I miss that. I miss that tremendously. There was a time, if anyone recalls, when you could upload pretty much anything you wanted to YouTube.
Drax's theories. A real Turian aeronaut, the first to cross the ocean in a balloon.
On Paladin? Brave soul. There aren't many soft places to land.
Anomaly on
Here.
sensors.
Interesting.
Probe
Scourge.
away. Detecting what's left of a ship.
Yeah, there was a time, it wasn't that long ago, when you could basically just upload anything you damn well pleased to YouTube with basically no fear of having it removed. I mean, unless it was like outright illegal, like you were uploading a recording of a murder, and you're pretty much in the clear. You could do whatever the hell you wanted on the internet. I miss those days. That was wonderful. Honestly, the fact that we can't is kind of disturbing. The fact that when I wanted to talk about an abstract philosophical idea concerning suicide, that I innately paused before doing so because YouTube doesn't like that word, is a very disturbing fact about our kind of online discourse. I mean, I understand the issue of sensitivity, right? It's a sensitive topic for a lot of people.
Anomaly on sensors.
Obviously, I mean, for good reason. However,
Probes launched. Anomaly found.
The fact that it's so difficult for us to even think about because of the limitations in our use of language. It's so difficult to even think about certain topics now. Topics which are perfectly viable material for academic discussion. I think that's very disturbing. It's dangerously limiting our ability to think, even, because a lot of what we do is we think together. We as humans, social creatures, a lot of our thinking gets done not individually, but as a group, as in conversation. And so, if you limit our capacity to think about certain topics in that way, I think it limits our ability to understand the world and to understand very important things. Suicide is one example, but there are plenty. I mean, for example, if I'm an ethicist, right? Ethics is a primary specialization of mine. There are plenty of thought experiments, and there are plenty of hypotheticals, and there are plenty of ethical discussions that I could perfectly reasonably have in the classroom.
The light on the side of this cluster is so different. Maybe the Scourge is absorbing certain wavelengths.
Does it ever give anything back?
Cool.
Anomaly detected.
Pretty
Probe
great.
away. Anomaly found.
But there are certain thought experiments, certain issues, certain topics that I could perfectly well discuss in class. Or at least I should be able to. And I can, because I generally have the support of my university and my department on these sorts of things. Now, that said, I think that there are other academic
Anomaly
settings,
detected.
there are other kinds of classrooms at other universities where maybe maybe some of these conversations might be limited unduly. But they're
Probe away.
kinds of things that I
I
could
found something.
perfectly well discuss in class. I could, at least. But that I definitely could not discuss online. And that's odd. That should disturb us. Should disturb us pretty greatly. In part because I think that it's easier to take things out of context online, cancel or whatever. But then also just the censorship regimes of various social media platforms. Like, for example, I could not have a robust discussion of, say, just war theory on YouTube, because there are views on the subject,
Anomaly detected.
whether those are good views, bad views, or somewhere in between, even I think probably even some correct views, that
Deploying probe.
that would be beyond the pale, that
Detecting
could
what's
not
left of the
be
ship.
accepted by YouTube, that YouTube would utterly reject, would violate YouTube's terms of service, at least as they're wildly and unevenly implemented. But simply because the subject concerns things like violence innately. We're talking about warfare and just war, the ethics of warfare. We're going to be talking about violence. Hell, if we're talking about ethics at all, we're almost certainly going to talk about violence at some point. A lot of that is either forbidden by YouTube completely, and by most social media platforms, or is at least deranked, restricted, moderated, demonetized, whatever. And that's a built-in disincentive to discuss these issues in a rational capacity. And see, I wish I could go into more detail and say exactly what I'm talking about, but I mean, there isn't much that I can say.
Most
That kind of
remote
thing.
systems in the cluster.
That
We're on
said,
the
there are
brink.
places online where you can
Exciting,
talk about these
isn't
sorts
it?
of things, but they're mostly private. It's more like a private conversation than it is a robust, say, like an intellectual discussion. Hell, let me put it this way: there are things that I could publish. There are papers I could write, arguments that I could make in academic publication that I don't think I could say on social media, and I definitely couldn't say on YouTube. I think that's... I mean, well, I'll just say, it's good that I can still say it in an academic context, at least. But when I'm trying to do academia, to some degree, online in this sort of manner, it's severely limiting. Really dangerously limiting. Anyway.
I'm picking up something.
That certainly has nothing to do with Chesterton, and he moved far afield. But
Deploying
All worth
probe.
discussing.
Tracking a huge mineral deposit.
Brilliant. Now, another thought I've been having lately. This is again having to do with ideas and the discussion of ideas, and the spread of ideas online and all that. This is related to a brief discussion I had on Facebook today. I think that there are some ideas that are so obviously false and so completely ridiculous that the only rational explanation for why people hold them is demons. I mean that quite literally. At least I think I mean it quite literally. That's one of those things where this is one of those things that I think as I put forward as a sort of as a philosophical hypothesis that it may change. It is to put it in Platonic terms. It's a kind of one hold. Dramos. Eos. Up. London. Okay. Okay. This is one of those ideas, to put it in Platonic terms, that I think I should send out to battle on fast horses. I'll explain that momentarily. Actually, I might have to do a whole video on that. I wrote a paper on it at some point.
Pythias system, home of Eos, and Prodromos.
In any case, though, the idea of course being that I think that there are some ideas that are so obviously ridiculous and obviously false. Things like what gave rise to this thought was the idea of subjectivism with respect to beauty. The idea that beauty is purely subjective, that there is no objective standard of beauty. I think that is so obviously false that the only way that one could hold it is if one were possessed, or at least oppressed by a demon. So Liam for his thing, and Cora gonna be Cora for her thing. Use our cool purple halberd. Yeah, love this thing. It's so cool. All right. Anyway, I think that
Descent is green.
That beauty is so obviously objective.
Coordinating. Path is calm.
That the only way that you can actually think the contrary is if a demon is doing the thinking for you. Now, I say demon here in the context that I think that ideologies, like ideological possession, is functionally that's functionally demons. That is essentially that groups as such do not exist on their own, and if a group is acting in a way that is not completely reducible to the thoughts, actions, and choices of its individual members, that is effectively. I see what this is. That is effectively.
This is it. This will be great.
That's effectively a demon doing the thinking and doing the talking. Right? If there is a group that isn't completely reducible to its individual members, because again, if we think about the metaphysics of groups of people, a group of people is really just a collection of individuals, and the individuals are doing the acting, doing the thinking, and all that. And groups that act sort of as a group on their own in a way that isn't reducible to individuals, that's angels and demons doing the thinking and doing the doing. That is those are preternatural entities. And so if you are ideologically possessed, to use the sort of psychological term that we're becoming more familiar with these days, I think that ideological possession is just demonic possession. It's the same thing, and that ideas like beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Well, we just sort of internalize that. We never think about it. We think it together. We use it. It's not just like it's something we say that doesn't influence the way we think about things. No, it really does influence the way we think about things in a very bad way. So things like that. I would also say things like gender ideology are again explicable only in terms of demonic possession. There are a few ideas I think that are so obviously false. Not just ideas that are necessarily false, because there's plenty of ideas that are necessarily false that I think could be reasonably believed under certain circumstances, like atheism. I think that atheism is necessarily self-evidently false, but it's not self-evident to anyone, to just anybody. You have to have a certain level of knowledge and expertise and understanding of terminology and of even of things like metaphysics. But once you have that basic understanding, then yeah, the terms explain themselves, that God must therefore exist, etc. I think that Anselm is right, but also that Aquinas is right. It's great. If you're not familiar with that, I'll put links in the video description to my videos on Anselm and Aquinas. Not familiar with these ideas of Anselm's ontological argument for the existence of God, or that God is self-evident, and then Aquinas' counter-argument, or sort of counter-argument, or caveat, that yeah, in itself, yes, to God, yes, but to most of us, maybe not, because we don't necessarily understand everything. I think this is a good idea.
Ready for the exchange, Pathfinder.
Grab your civvies. Going to get hot.
How did you do all this?
Well, it didn't take much. A ball, flat ground. Hustle would start games at refugee camps. I didn't get it then, but after the attack here and the shit with Varan's rescue, I wanted to try something. Low tech. What do you think?
Love it.
It's good to get people's minds off of all the crap we go through.
Love
Not
it.
just
This is
that.
the kind of crap that Liam should
I
be
didn't
doing.
do it to distract them. We don't get distracted. We go head on. When it's life or death, you have to. No one's living or dying because of this. They're here because they want to be. I didn't get how important that is. Maybe that choice is how we stop being outsiders. Check the play! Free kick for charging. No charge for matchmaking. What?
We're lucky to have you.
You better believe it.
Look at have you
too,
doing
right?
this stuff.
You're a jerk sometimes, but as Pathfinder,
This kind of stuff, Liam.
this is because of you. Switch up. Ready to get in the game?
Yeah, the Pathfinder should make an appearance.
Maybe you should get out of your
Trying
armor.
to keep up, Costa.
Don't count on it. I'm
Oh,
complete
God.
rubbish.
See, this is fantastic. This is the kind of thing. I think that that's absolutely right. I think that the kind of fun and games domesticity is the kind of thing that is that's easy to miss out when you're fighting for survival at all times like this. But I think it's the kind of thing that if you miss out on it, then you are missing out on something fundamental about sort of human life and human community. That if you're not, just sort of dicking around playing soccer, then what are you even doing? What are you even living for? Live. Don't just survive.
I'm good. You're here. Yeah, so listen, she's only got a minute or two, and she's in rare form today, just to warn you. She's here kickstarting repopulation protocols, reversing the chemical procreation blockers for colonists. Calls it boosting the batter. She's gonna talk your ear off about your civic duty as a man.
I'm on it. I've got Cora right here. Anyway, hang on. Point being, though, right, as I was saying, I think that once again, this whole, like, we're going to go establish colonies, and we're going to go expand into a new galaxy with a very limited population size. Also, we're going to temporarily sterilize the entire population. What? The whole ongoing contraceptive thing. I talked about this before and how heinously wrong this is, and how obviously contrary to to all of the goals of the initiative, and also obviously contrary to the natures of all of the species involved. How that is, and it's also this odd assumption that like it's this very common modern assumption that sex is like eating or drinking, that it's a biological necessity, that if you're gonna die without it, that you can't just not do it if you don't want to procreate. Like, again, it's this, right? We technologically separate sex from procreation only after we have already conceptually, pardon the pun, separated sex from procreation. We only think about contraception once we have already accepted a kind of contraceptive mentality, once we've already accepted this idea that sex is first and foremost recreational, and that procreation is at best an unintended or unwanted consequence of doing so. And that's kind of what's going on here. That whole thing is the idea of sending 50,000 of each species colonists to a new galaxy. And, well, we better unboost their batter so when they get down to it, they can not be getting down to what they came here for, which is expanding the population. Utterly ridiculous. Anyway.
That is what she's here to do. The woman takes her job seriously.
Hey, if you're cool with it. I mean, makes no
She's also
never mind to
absolutely
me.
right.
No chance I'll ever oops a baby into the world.
Am I interrupting something?
Ah, Jill. About time. This is...
Save it. I asked you both to stop by, remember? Ryder? Pleasure. I know we're all very busy, so I have only one question for you.
Sure, go ahead.
What the hell did you do to him? It's like he's an adult or something. He can even have a mature conversation without it degrading into pot shots. Unless I take it there. What's your secret?
I sneaked into the stasis pods and switched him with another baby.
My boy's in good hands. Okay, you're both off the hook. So glad I got to meet you, Ryder.
Likewise.
Gil's being a little mature. That's crazy. Who would have thought? I certainly wouldn't have thought. All right, what do we got to do here? We got to meet with Cora. That's it, right? That's all we got to do here on EOS? Gosh, there's no easy way to get there, is there? I guess I can fast travel to the island there. Yeah. Probably the best way to do it. Anyway, but yeah, her being the anti-eugenicist, or the counter-eugenicist, I suppose, if you want to think of it that way. Her job should not be necessary at all.
I like
but,
crossing dunes, getting all 6 wheels off the ground.
But given that it is necessary, I think that she's absolutely heroic for doing so. Whee!
Enemies!
Forgot I didn't have my mouse set up properly again. What? Oh. Oops.
Moving.
Forgot. Got to set up my mouse again. Happens basically every time.
This is the place.
I have
Ready?
multiple mass profiles, so the blue one is for Andromeda. The other glow ones are different. Oops. Not for oops. Different stuff. The blue one's for Andromeda. That? No, I thought that was a bug. There's a bug over there, though. There he is. Ah.
So where's your mystery project?
Not far. The old outpost site. They left a few things behind.
Oh, steady.
Thanks. I can't lead the way unless you...
Spoil sport.
You know she did that on purpose.
Soil converter. No
There's a
remnant
0% chance
terraformer,
that
but
she,
it makes sandy dirt into something useful.
0% chance she accidentally tripped like that.
Add seeds, some rain, and you've got a garden.
That's right. You wanted a garden of your own.
It'll take years. I might not even see it. But that's okay. Asari think in centuries. Lay a foundation, then step away. Let it grow into something you might never expect. Pathfinder training was my foundation. Gave me a whole galaxy of directions I could go. I don't need someone else's plan. Just a good beginning. The first seeds of a garden. Or someone I need in my life.
Someone you need.
Oh.
I could get used to hearing that.
I'll have Sam make a recording.
I want to keep hearing it from you.
You will. But first... Ready? 1, 2...
Right. It's really... I like this about Korra. I mean, I like this about the sort of romance of the relationship with Korra. That, first of all, these stupid frickin' bugs. But that it is so centered around the kind of things that we came here to do. To build a new life. To really build a new life. And not just to merely survive. Like I was saying.
Ascent is go.
It's similar to what we were talking about with Liam, but the planting a garden and to
Leaving
bring
Apple.
life to a
All
place where there
clear.
was no life before, and that kind of thing. There's something about that is part of, it's so part and parcel of the dream.
I think Lexi wanted to speak to you.
Okay. All right, so part and parcel of the dream of what you
have AVP outstanding.
what you go across galaxies to do, right? What you colonize to do. You go to actually spread a colony. You don't just go because you want to go see somewhere new, which, okay, yeah, true. You don't go just to live somewhere like you've lived everywhere else. You go because you're going to set down new roots. Right? New roots. It's taking seeds from the homeland and replanting them elsewhere, kind of. That kind of thing is it's beautiful, and it's at the same time despised by a lot of nasty people. Because it's seen as kind of parasitical or something like that, maybe. colonialist, I suppose, is the simplest way of putting it. But I think parasitical is a broader description of what these sorts of people think is wrong with the idea. Right. So Ryder says, Vetra says, Ryder, don't worry. Sid didn't do something reckless this time, as far as I know. I just found something cool in Kadara. Want to meet me there? Send the nav point as an attachment. Okay, cool. We'll go there. Cora, thanks again for coming with me. If you want to know, the plants we seeded are Tiral Azana, handful of water, a plant from Rannoch. Ooh, cool. Common Ursal, a Thessian blossom that smells like honey. Lace and lilac, a flower they found on Eden Prime, and a few others. Before I forget, I was one amazing kiss, mister. Could have been a fluke, though. Guess we have to keep trying. Oh my god. Oh. Oh. Hamster. Alright, Lexi wanted to talk to us.
We need to talk about Sam.
Dr. Taparo does not approve of how we escaped the Ket containment field on the Archon's flagship.
By stopping the Pathfinder's heart? No, I do not approve.
Relax, Doc. It turned out okay.
Dying, even temporarily, is never okay. Ryder, Sam killed you. Yes, he brought you back, but what if he didn't?
I cannot learn without the Pathfinder. That would be akin to killing a part of myself.
Your lines of code, you can't die.
Sam would never hurt me.
Thank you, Scott.
Look, I'm not against Sam. I'm not against you, Sam. But my job's hard enough without an AI stopping your heart. Even to save your life.
Your concern is noted, Doctor.
Of course it has.
Lexi, I apologize for any distress I have caused you.
And I'm sorry for calling you lines of code. You're more than that. Even if you don't have cells to prove it.
Once again, we run into the problem of AI. Sort of the qualia problem, in a sense. The what is it like to be Sam? Which is, I think that this sort of partner AI idea, it almost helps to solve some of the philosophical problems with AI, and particularly the psychological problems, the philosophy of mind kind of problems, because it has human sensory inputs, or at least sapient sensory inputs, and thought patterns to model itself on. So it's a kind of ghost, to use a pun, because again, ghost was. So Erica had a very similar idea with respect to Sam as a kind of partner AI. In fact, played a character based on the concept in a Mass Effect tabletop. That the partner AI being called Ghost. The idea, of course, being that it was passed on intergenerationally. So it could learn from one, then learn from the next person, then learn from the next person, and gradually develop as a person, right? A strong AI. But I do think that this potentially solves a lot of the problems with AI. Even the sort of magic trick problem, which is a fascinating one, right? The idea that if you know how the trick works, you know it's a trick, right? And because we know how large language models work, to use a current example, we know it's a trick. We know it's not actually talking. We know it's sampling text, and it's spitting back out likely textual responses. And that's very different from thinking. And because we know how the trick works, we know that it's a trick, right? Penn and Teller know that this is a trick, and so they're not going to be fooled into thinking it's magic, even if the audience might be. And so because we are the programmers of AI, we know that it is just a trick. It's just lines of code, so to speak. But if it is co-developed with a human mind in this way, in the way that Sam is, that opens up real questions. Are we genuinely teaching the thing? Are we developing the thing? Are we giving life to the thing in a way that is different from simply coding it? And I think maybe I'm open to the possibility. I'm highly skeptical about the possibility of strong AI. But there are a few ways that I think it could happen, and Mass Effect touches on a couple of them. The other being the hive, the sort of hive idea of the Geth, that there are a bunch of very simple programs that start operating together in a network, and so by operating together in a network, they can sort of collectivify, not a word, collectivize. That's it. Collectivize base level tasks and then start operating higher level tasks individually. And so the more of them there are, each one becomes more sort of intelligent, gets more processing power, or is capable of higher level tasks. And so perhaps that could functionally develop into something like sapient cognitive processing. But maybe not. I'm still skeptical even about that one. Sam is closer to a possibility. Maybe. I don't know. Like I said, I'm still very skeptical about the possibility of strong AI.
That Archon barely sees us as sentient, strings people up like puppets. Just no more playing dead, okay? I couldn't...
Cora, if it's between that and losing the team, you know what I'll choose.
Then we'd better stop those Ket quickly. Losing the Krogan could really hurt us down the line, but at least we got Reika. Sorry, rambling. Did you need me?
No, not at the moment.
See you later, Cora.
Stay safe.
Then your thoughts on the debacle of a last mission that I think turned out well. But you know, it's a problem. Certainly have problems. Let's see. Nothing else to do, I don't think. No one else to talk to. Let's go to where? Kadara. A couple things to do on Kadara. One thing we need on Aya. Excuse me. At least one thing on Aya. Rack's not doing so hot. Kind of mad, understandably. We have a perk point. Mining. Military. X. Yeah. Andy. Let's see. What we gotta do? Vetra. On hold. Jal and Havarl. Eladin. That's gonna be a fun one. I can't figure that out. Aya. Okay, so yeah, let's go to Kadara, because I have the thing for Vetra first. Let's do that first.
Couldn't digest it without heavy processing. Cellulolysis would be hugely inefficient.
What now?
I need a break. Do you need a break? Let's go for a break.
Sure. Okay.
Care for some tea, Ryder?
I'd love a cup.
It's a cultivar originating in Sumatra. My own personal stash. Once I run out, that'll be it for Earth tea. I keep having these thoughts. I'm never gonna taste this again. I'm never gonna see that again.
You're not the only one, Subi. I have those senseless thoughts all the damn time.
And? Do they bother you?
It's natural. You'd have to be made of stone not to miss home sometimes.
The universe is like a giant tapestry. I love following its threads, but it distracts me from the whole picture. My family was right there, but I was too occupied by the abstract to appreciate them.
From everything you've told me, you're here because of your family. Your love of science, doesn't that come from them? Aren't you with them every time you chase down a new discovery?
Ryder, that's beautiful.
My mother made the implant in my head, and my father created the AI that uses it. I haven't lost them either.
Thank you, Ryder.
Aw. Lexi. After our last discussion, Sam and I thought it would be best if we both took a crash course in AI history to gain a better understanding of each other's perspectives. It's been immensely helpful in finding common ground, but also for highlighting the differences between Sam and the Geth. The Geth didn't need the Quarians to survive, but Sam cannot carry out his primary functions without a Pathfinder. I still don't like that Sam has the ability to stop your heart, but I no longer have nightmares about him getting trigger happy with your life. Lexi. That is true. Yeah, there is that issue that that's a very common sort of trope in sci-fi about AIs, is that the AI can just discover that it is superior to organics and no longer needs organics and can therefore dispense with organics. An unpleasant prospect, to say the least. But that goes all the way back through all of the sci-fi involving robots and such. Is, well, what happens when the robots discover that they don't need us? They can just get rid of us. What happens when they surpass us? They'll destroy us and all that. That's the Geth. Like, the Geth are a very, very almost stereotypical case of fear of AI. Not in a bad way, though. That isn't to say that I think that it's done poorly or anything. I actually tend to think that using stereotypes and cliches in writing is generally a good thing, because it allows the reader to just immediately grasp what you're trying to convey without having to go through for ages expositing. Everyone knows expository dialogue is the boring part. I mean, I don't know. I kind of like expository dialogue. I'm strange, I suppose. But wait. Hold on. Let's do a little shopping first while we're here. But yeah, I think that I like expository dialogue, exposition in general. But that's me. I'm strange. Most people, that is the boring part, right? I need augments. Never mind. All out of augments. Okay. Have any up here?
We're under new management.
Oh, okay. That's all they have. Okay. Yeah.
You'll make both our lives easier if you stay sharp, Pathfinder.
I need kinetic coils. Really? That's all I need is kinetic coils. Because I just put several in each weapon. And I like to have some on hand to put in more weapons. Basically, they just increase damage. Wonderful. Okay, let's swap to Archangel and Vetra. And let's go. Yeah. Yeah, I think stereotypes and cliches are very useful for writing fiction, because again, I think it allows us to borrow exposition implicitly from somebody else who's already done the exposition, so we don't really have to. We don't have to do it over. Because if you already have a sort of stock character or stereotype in mind, then very clearly you don't really need to reestablish a complex character. What you can do is you can focus on, well, what are the differences? How does this character differ from the standard version of that archetype? Because then, well, you have a way of differentiating, right? There are differences from the stock character, but you have a starting place. You have somewhere to start from. Without that, you're kind of
table danced in Omega?
That was one job. One. Somehow it ended up being me watching the floor and providing distraction.
Dancing's one of your many talents, then.
Shit, no. I tripped over myself 30 seconds in. Accidentally ripped out of... Here we are. You ready?
Ripped out of what? Ripped out of what? Vetra, what? What did you rip out? Oh god, oh no, that's terrible that cut off there. I'm fascinated. Gosh, where was I? What was I even saying before that? Oh yeah, stock characters, stereotypes, that's it. This is actually one of the things that I think that sort of progressive writers, woke sort of writers, they miss because they try desperately to subvert stereotypes, and that's their sort of bread and butter for writing. And even if you look to, actually, you know what? Oh, gosh, what's the channel? Um, there is, oh gosh, The Fourth Age. That's what it's called. Um, I'll put a link in the description after the stream. But there's a channel called The Fourth Age. He does a lot of great work analyzing storytelling and things like that from a very philosophical perspective. He knows his stuff, particularly with respect to ancient philosophy. He knows his Aristotle very well, and he was looking through. At least I think this was him. Pretty sure this was from him. But he was looking through Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft, which is a guidebook for 5th edition D&D. But it came out fairly recently, the last couple of years, well after Wizards of the Coast had sort of gone off the deep end into wokeism. And there's sort of several of their sort of rules of thumb for character creation and for NPC generation. Mind you, this is in a horror setting, a horror module. Is basically all avoid stereotypes, don't use stock characters, subvert expectations, all that, which is not what you want to do at all, especially as a DM. Like I've ran D&D games now for like a decade, at least. Yeah, no, I've been running D&D games now for like a decade. Been a DM primarily. And my thing is, I love NPCs. I love coming up with NPCs that are interesting and their own little individual character. But that said, I have several stock characters that I always will go to, and I have stereotypes that I will also go to all the time. There's nothing at all wrong with that, and that's in fact incredibly useful, because it means that you don't have to do as much work when you create something because it's already there. And you can, like I said before, you can focus your attention on differentiation from that stock character. But you start from somewhere, right? If you're starting from the subversion, there's no solid footing. You're just sort of building on sand, so to speak. Biblical allegory. It's terrible DM advice. Always use stereotypes. Always use tropes and stereotypes. Start from there, branch out from there. Yes, but definitely start from there. Anyway, it's a good video, by the way. I'll put it in the description.
You were right. The view is great from up here.
We're not even to the top yet. Come on, I'll race you.
A race up this cliff?
Less talk, more climb. Let's go, Pathfinder. And no jump jets. No one likes a cheat.
This isn't fair. You're taller. You have reach.
Don't say
Staying within your limits is no
Don't
fun,
say it.
Ryder.
Don't say the reach flexibility thing. No, not gonna cheat. Mm-mm. 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 Vile temptations, that's evil. The jump jet is there in case you fall, so you don't fall to your death.
Having fun?
See? Not fair.
Wow. It's all going to be like this, huh?
No. Better.
For 14 months, I wondered if I'd made a mistake coming here and dragging my sister with me. I don't wonder anymore. Boarding the Tempest that day was the best decision I ever made.
It's been a wild ride, huh?
Wouldn't exchange it for any other.
Of all the places, I do really like Kadara. As far as like places that would be pretty okay to live, like once the water is okay enough from the vault, like Kadara is actually really nice. And maybe that's just because I have never lived around mountains, because I'm from Florida. Lived here my whole life. That seeing mountains like this to me is like cool and exotic, and not like a huge pain in the ass to traverse, because I'm sure it would be. Particularly if you don't have it as insane a vehicle as the Nomad. But, you know, this is a high-tech society. You have shuttles and things. You can just fly. Whatever. You basically have hover cars at within reach of any given settler. So whatever. It's not that big a deal. I think given the traversability due to technology, I think that, you know, Kadara, it's nice. It's really nice. Oh, all right, we already did that. All right, now Aya, right? Or Havarl. Or Havarl. Actually, you know what? Aya. We'll see if there's anything else to do on Aya. I don't think so, but maybe. We'll take a look.
Now orbiting Kadara.
I still could not find the Barite Rush, where that team was. So, no. I don't know. I know I've done it before, in previous playthroughs. Oh, I've done it. It is doable. It could have glitched in this one, or I'm just not putting in the effort. I don't know. I mean, it's alright. It's a very minor side quest. Okay. Aya is a volcanic hellscape, except for this tiny little area, the size of, like, Massachusetts, by the look of it. Looking at it from the ground, it looks even smaller. Maybe it is. I don't know. But I guess it's like a tiny little area that the vaults have managed to make habitable. Something like that. All this then. Yeah. Something I didn't notice. Let me go up here to see about the these shops. I think there's some sellers. Oh, no, not there. I was wrong. It is just, I love all these. I love I love the layout of all this, with the planters, but also with the overhangs. Pretty cool.
The Moshai said you remember when the Ket arrived.
My father's oldest friend was chosen to be Volt's ambassador to the Ket.
Kind of a combination of
They embraced as brothers.
It's like a
All
Caribbean
the Ken sent
Epcot.
back was his badge. And a holo recording I wasn't allowed to watch. I was too young to understand why everyone was scared. Why my father mourned for months.
Why kill an ambassador and risk retaliation?
They told us it was retaliation for Havarl's attack on their envoy. Havarl received the same story. But in that one, we were the aggressors. We were so busy blaming each other. We were divided when the Ket launched their assault. They'll try the same with you. Be ready.
That's a good strategy. I'm right now reading, or I guess listening to the Thrawn trilogy from the Star Wars Expanded Universe, and man, there's a lot of these very clever stratagems in terms of turning people against each other and that sort of thing. However, every once in a while, Thrawn's technical genius just seems to be a sort of Deus Ex Machina. There are times where it does not make any sense. Like, this is actually something that I never noticed before. Because I haven't read the Thrawn trilogy since I was a kid.
Pathfinder.
Here we go. Double mod extension. Damage booster, recharge booster. No, I don't need that. Kinetic coil. Action displacer, reaction optimizer. No. No. Okay. 4,000. Almost 5,000. It's worth it. It's worth it. But yeah, it's some of it is a little bit arbitrary, let's say.
Pathfinder.
Like how Thrawn figures out how the New Republic, or that the New Republic are going to be attacking Dobringi instead of Torpus. Instead of the planet that they're fainting at, basically, which he is set up as a trap. He basically says, well, obviously, they're doing everything to make it look like they're attacking this other planet. Everything looks like they're attacking this other planet. So that obviously means that they're going after Dobringi. I'm like, what the hell? Are you... What? How are you putting that together? And there's no rationale for how he's putting it together. Whereas some of the other times, particularly earlier on, he actually explains his reasoning, and a lot of it makes a lot of sense. So what's with the cool jazz? Epic, I love it. But yeah, there are some times where Thrawn's sort of ability to read people from their people's art, from their culture's artwork, is a little bit stretchy and a little bit hand wavy, and a little bit like basically magic, or like he's getting force visions or something. But whatever, you know what? Fine. There are also a bajillion times where he absolutely should have just executed Jiru Sabayoth, the clone crazy Jedi Master. Definitely just should have had him executed, like, just immediately. But whatever. It was only his entire downfall. Whatever.
I feel so out of place here.
Basically thought he could
Staring
handle it.
at me. I
Which,
can't tell if they're
maybe.
fascinated or afraid.
When I was little, I was scared of Turians. You're a certain species.
Not helping, Ryder.
What? It's true, though. Turians were basically the boogeymen when they were big, scary alien invaders when Ryder was growing up.
I said you'd want to hear my experience with the Ket, to learn.
Yeah, look, there's freaking fire tornadoes, like right over there.
Tell me about it.
Jeez, this
I had
place.
just arrived. I was on a civilian shuttle to Volt when we received a message the spaceport was on lockdown. Security concerns due to the Ket. We were supposed to land on a nearby moon and wait for the all clear. Instead of landing, the shuttle captain turned back. Something felt wrong, he said. Later we learned it was a Ket transmission to isolate us for capture. The captain had saved our lives.
Wow.
The enemy uses confusion to take advantage of the vulnerable.
Many shuttles obeyed that false order. Those people were never seen again.
Yeah. See, that's actually, again, that's another pretty clever one.
Exaltation is just another word for how the Ket kill us.
And if you're wrong? If we've been killing for them without realizing it?
I saw a Ket up close when they attacked. It was nothing like our people.
True.
The Ket weaponize their victims to make you hesitate.
And when the Ket begin to exalt your people, what will you do then?
Thank you for that.
Stop them.
Insight, Pathfinder.
Obviously.
The issue facing us is complex. Come, my friends. Deliberate with me.
There's something very Athenian Forum about this. I love it. Come, let us reason together. Oh, hey, how's it been? Any more death threats?
I found the person who threatened you.
I know. I received a written apology from him. I assume I can continue my work undisturbed.
Next time your big mouth lands you in trouble, I may not save you.
We'll see what Director Tan has to say about that.
That was way more
Tell him
rude
I
than I
said
intended
hi.
it to be.
You're interfering with my readings. Good day, Pathfinder.
I mean, it's justified. He's a jerk, but still, like, wow, that was really rude. Oh, what? Okay.
The Moshai said we should speak. You remember the Ket's arrival.
One of them came to our city on a vow to offer lavish gifts. We lined up along the street to watch the alien walk with our ambassador. As it passed, it stopped and knelt in front of me. I still dream of what it said. Young one, you are meant for greatness.
The Ket lured your people into a false friendship.
It worked. A month later, our council disappeared. Our city was thrown into chaos. And when the Ket came again, it was to conquer us at our weakest. They're cunning. They know what you desire, and they offer it. Be careful.
Hey, Dominic, how you doing? So wait, we want to define American culture. Good and the bad. Interesting. So I will first say that that's hard. That's easier said than done. I think that American culture is very hard to pin down because I don't know if there is a singular American culture. Primarily just because America is so huge and so diverse, even just the U.S. Just strictly speaking about the U.S. here, America in that sense. But the United States that is so big, so diverse, so spread out, with so many different regional cultures, and even within particular areas, there are so many diverse cultures that sort of coexist and live together, that are incredibly different, incredibly separate. I think that it's hard to pin down what is just American culture in general. I don't know if you can pin that sort. No. Yeah, I don't know if you can pin that down. The closest I think you can do in terms of a sort of commonality would have to be something like independence, right? We as Americans, culturally speaking, have a strong desire, in both good ways and bad ways, but I think mostly in good ways, for independence, for making our own decisions. You can see this in, say, American car culture. as distinct from European preference, and honestly most of the world's preference for public transport. Uh, Public transportation has the problem that the bus is going somewhere rather than specifically where you want to go. So you will take a ride on this thing that is going a particular place, and hopefully, and it will go to you will board the one that's going closest to where you want to go. Whereas, sort of the American preference for cars, for individual automobiles, is the preference to, first of all, having our own private sphere, that we sort of maintain control and others aren't intruding into, having your windows rolled up and such. Then also we decide where it goes specifically, right? It's not just that I can decide to go from point A to point B. It's how I get from point A to point B. That is a very that is very important, essential part of American culture, and I don't think that can really go away. I don't think that large scale public transportation is at all viable in the U.S., with the exception of very strange places that are barely American, like New York and LA. I do think that car culture is a big aspect of this, and it has to do with American independence, preference for independence, personal independence, not even necessarily political independence, but personal independence. I'm trying to think of what other things are distinctly culturally American, and it's really hard to come up with something that's nearly as universal as that. Um, I don't know. You think of anything? I mean, I honestly have some trouble with that. Oh, a short view of history. That's it. That's the other thing. A short view of history. We don't have the long view of history that Europe does. Um, Europe especially has a very long view of history. We think of 100 years old as old, whether that is of ideas, whether that is of things, um, whether that is historical figures. We think of something that happened 100 years ago as a long time ago. We think of something that happened 200 years ago as basically ancient. 300 years is a very long time ago. But to Europeans, and to me, frankly, because as a academic historian, um, 200 years is very recent. Anything in the last 500 years is recent as far as I'm concerned. Um, but that's again, that's an odd perspective for Americans. Um, Americans think of history as starting in 1776, basically. We think of American history first and foremost. So I think that is an aspect of American culture, in a way we view ourselves, we view the world around us, that sort of thing, in a relatively unique way. Um, I think another aspect as well is the idea that we sort of shun we something like shun ethnic identity, or we think of it as irrelevant to national identity. Like, we have a really hard time grasping the ethnic nation, because we are a an ideological nation, more or less. We're a civic nation. Um, we have a hard time grasping this idea that there is something that it is to be English, which is to be English. That meaning, like, of English descent, of these people, right? Whereas you could be an American as a second generation immigrant. You were born here, you're an American as far as Americans are concerned. But if you were a second generation immigrant in France or in Britain or in Germany, you're not French or English or German. You're just not. You live here, you're a citizen, but it's radically different. So that, I think, has impacts on how we see ourselves, and how we see each other, and uh, how we see our culture, how we see the various cultural aspects that wind up getting mixed together, between sort of our mostly mixed ethnic heritage, which the U.S. has incredibly mixed ethnic, because of this way of looking at it. Um, Dominic says, I think American culture not being able to be defined is part of its culture. It's our shiftiness, which is bad because we don't have an identity, but what makes us a world power. I think that's true. I think you're right. I think you're right. I think that I don't think that America is a nation, strictly speaking. I think that we're an empire. We are much closer to, say, the Roman Empire than we are to, say, uh, Germany in that sense, or Italy. Let's just go. Let's stick to the same sort of geographical area, right? We're much closer to the Roman Empire than we are to Italy, right? We are a political union first and foremost, not necessarily a cultural union. So I do think that is yeah. I think that's a way of being a superpower, sure, but I do think that even the sort of continental United States, what is properly the United States, is more of an empire than anything else, a nation or a republic or whatever. Dom says most cultures have a great religion, tradition, great songs. We don't have much, unless you look at it from a Protestant lens. Yeah, and no, we do have a religion. It is. I've actually written on this, published on this even. It's the civic religion of the United States, and I would I have it around here. Yeah, this. This book. This book. I've recommended this book before. This is William Cavanaugh's book, Migrations of the Holy. God, State, and the Political Meaning of the Church. This is from a particularly Catholic perspective, which is interesting in the American political context because Catholicism has always been sort of maligned. Not by Protestants, but by secularists. Because Catholicism is a distinctly anti secular religion. Um, we have a civic religion of the United States, and it is functionally the same as the is very similar in a lot of respects to the Roman imperial cult, the cult of the emperor. That whatever particular creed, cult, practice, whatever religious practice, whatever you might have, is fine so long as it is subsumed by and oriented towards national unification or imperial unification, if you will. As long as it can play a part, play as long as your religion, whatever it is, can play the part of uniting you to the greater whole of the nation of the United States, or in the Roman context of Rome, as long as you're a Roman citizen first, then whatever the particulars of your belief are considered irrelevant. But you always must leave the pinch of incense to the emperor, so to speak. The same thing goes for the United States, right? Yeah, you can do whatever religious things you want, and that's perfectly fine, so long as you still pledge allegiance to the flag. Kind of the same thing, isn't it? So an empire, so to differentiate an empire from a nation, it is a culturally diverse group with political unity rather than cultural or ethnic or or cultural or ethnic or religious unity. Oh yeah, Moldbug, Curtis Yarvin. Yeah, I've seen some of his stuff. I think he's a little too black pilled, Moldbug. I think he's got some good points, but I think he's way too black pilled. I think he's a lot of the things that I think he's right about. He takes to be bad, whereas in fact I think some of them are good. The fact that the United States is probably going to balkanize within our lifetimes, or at least split up to some degree. He thinks that this is basically that this is kind of he looks at this as the end, where it's not, right? Nations have split up throughout history. It's not the end of the world. It's not even a disaster. Probably better for everyone in the everything but the shortest of terms. Things like that. I think he's. It's also, I will say, kind of hard to follow some of his political theorizing because he talks a lot in every interview, every video I've seen of him. He just goes. It's a little hard to follow, so I have to listen very carefully if I really want to follow what he's trying to say. Um, Now, going back to what you said earlier, looking at Great American Explorers, Manifest Destiny, I think that is a pretty distinctly American thing. But it's not exclusively. I don't think it's exclusively American. The idea that we crave and desire and even need expansion, novelty, to see what's over the horizon. I think that is an American thing, but I think that there are aspects of that. There are plenty of aspects of that in almost every human culture you find.
Ah, you acquired the components? Yes. I'm looking forward to seeing what you and Gil put together.
He's very gifted. When we succeed, more of your people can experience our stories as they are meant to be enjoyed. Goda Tavitara, the Lulia Reborn Trilogy. I'm weeping a bit already.
Cool. It's basically a what we would probably call a 4D movie experience. Pretty neat. All right, let's see. What else we got? Alex says, talking about Curtis Yarvin, his political theory, in summary, would be that everything you see is a product of Protestantism evolving.
Suvi, that woman on the
Breakers?
Nexus.
Yeah, maybe.
She's a widow of one of my pilots.
The people you were training to explore the Scourge?
Zoe's wife was lost out there. For a fellow pilot, one does the right thing.
Like making sure her widow's got enough credits.
It's the least I can do. The most is conquering the Scourge once and for all.
I don't think it's a product of Protestantism at all. I think that as much as I am, ideologically and religiously opposed to Protestantism, don't get me wrong, I am. As much as that's the case, I do also think that Protestantism is itself a product of the same ideological forces that give rise to the sort of American political situation that we're talking about, that we're afraid of, right? I think that it's not Protestantism per se; it's a kind of secularism that itself gives rise to the Protestantism that we see now. It's a kind of Enlightenment secularism that is about things like what? It's the same thing that gave rise to things like national churches, right? National churches are not something that makes sense from the Catholic perspective. Now, to be fair, it makes sense from an Orthodox
Entering
perspective.
atmosphere, LZ in sight.
And so there's still that sort of what the East would call Cicero-papism. That I think is present within sort of the Enlightenment secularism that aligns very well with Protestantism. It also aligns well with Protestantism. Kavanaugh, that same author in The Myth of Religious Violence, another really good book of his, talks about the way of seeing religion as a kind of one option among many. Right? It sees a religion. Religion is something that you can reasonably pluralize or apply the indefinite article, that sort of thing. They can talk about one religion as an option among many, and then also that a religion can be that religion is primarily having to do with a set of propositional beliefs, rather than it being a sort of communal practice that unites us as a group, as a people, to God, which is the more traditional and more Catholic way of viewing it. Wait, what? Max Weber is the precursor to the money influencer, bro? Passive income is king. Wait, what about Max Weber? I don't think I was talking about Max Weber. Was I something that Max Weber talked about a lot?
Jarl! Jarl! Wait. Is that bad news?
No, no. The Pathfinder is interested in where I grew up. Ryder, this is my true mother, Sahuna Amadarau.
Nice to meet you. I know Ingarl liked the hugging.
Jarl's told me how much he admires you.
Really?
He's my favorite. Smart, loyal, kind.
Can you say
A
that?
great shot. Writes poetry, souls.
Mother.
I'm late for a resistance meeting. Stay clear.
Your mother's in the Resistance?
Yes. And every child is her favorite.
Ah, I see. Okay, there you go. Oh, Weber is your example
Everyone,
of how the political climate we're in is Protestantism.
Hi.
I can see that, I guess.
Look who the Karkin dragged. Welcome back.
I can see that,
This
I
is where I
guess.
spent most of my days growing up. Me, my sister, Guana, our cousin, Etta, and brother,
The origin of the idea of
Ben,
passive income?
Babezu,
Really?
So wonderful to
Hey,
have
Jarl.
you back.
Hey, human.
Jarl, you
I mean, I'm
bringing
assuming
someone
he
special to meet
came
us?
up with calling it that.
Wow.
That's existed for
Cozy.
thousands of years.
We like to live like
That's
this.
That's what.
Gonna give your friends some real food?
Good to see you.
That's fundamental to
And
the
here's
feudal
my
structure,
room.
the feudal
My
political economic
Tiny
structure.
sanctuary.
We have a saying that I like. Home is where the heart is.
I like that. Oh, no. Put this here.
Popularized by establishing it in relation to God's
When I
blessing.
was 7, my aunt stole a cat weapon for me. So I took it apart.
7.
To learn.
And that was a Karkin.
Pet Karkin. Alfit. He died. So I also took him apart.
To learn?
Why not? I never show people these things, but I feel like we're family.
It's been good getting to know you.
Hey, there's one more thing you might like. Sit there.
Been interesting so far. Nice. You made that?
Long ago. It's not accurate. More of a dream, really. Just one more thing I want to take apart and figure out.
Me too, Jarl. Me too.
Cool. It's a Protestant delight since work has no place in salvation. Okay, yeah, I can see that, I guess. I can see where you get with that. Yeah. I can see where you're going with that. That makes sense. Yeah, there's no, that is true also.
Leaving a Varl.
That I do think
Registers
that,
Pathfinder.
I do think that there's a lot of different views of work and how it relates not just to salvation but to value, right? There is the view that the Protestant view, which is that you have an obligation to work, but that isn't, I guess, intrinsically meritorious, right? That work is something that you do in order to provide. That is good and that is useful, but it's only useful. Fair enough. But so there's that. That is I think broadly the American view and the Protestant view. Then there's also the view, the more Catholic view, which is which I don't actually even completely even hold to, which is that work is intrinsically valuable. It is intrinsically valuable to work in such a way as to produce, right? To do what is one's task. I think that's kind of right. I think that there is something intrinsically valuable about work, but that's not necessarily in terms of remunerative labor is necessarily intrinsically valuable. I think that it is valuable to do what one ought to do what is appropriate to oneself. Work in accordance with one's function. Now let's bring Jal. It's fine. Yeah. Now let's go with Verdant Hunter. And then, so that is the Catholic view, is that work is intrinsically valuable in itself, that it is that one's work is not one's vocation. That's a separate issue, but work is part of what one does, and that it's an intrinsically valuable thing to do. It's good to do. That work is intrinsically noble. Then also now there's the separate view, which is the sort of the pre-modern, the classical view, even the pre-Catholic view, the sort of ancient pagan view, which is that leisure is the end of labor. This is the especially, most notably the classical Greek view, that there's no good reason to work except for what it will produce you. Work is strictly an extrinsic good. It is not intrinsically good at all.
Friends, Cora?
I think so. I hope so.
But you never talk to me the way you do to Truck. And you're good friends with him.
Don't let him hear that. I'll never live it down.
Shouldn't he know how you feel? I'm misunderstanding something.
What was that crash?
We're friends, Jal. And Drax's an ass. The good kind.
Great, now Jal is going to be calling Drax a good ass. It's going to happen. He's going to call Jal a good ass.
On the horizon.
Pathfinder, this area can be mined for resources. You can extract minerals via your mining interface.
But yeah, it's anyway. Dominic says the work is intrinsically good view. I think it depends on how we define work. I would say that it's good. It has to do with your with dominion over the world, which is your call. I think that's correct. Although I don't think that dominion over the world is our vocation, strictly speaking. Our calling per se, because that has to do with our relationships to each other and to God.
These rock formations are amazing.
Heck yeah. Back the other way. They are. It's pretty cool. Joseph Pieper.
This remnant site has defenses
leisure is the basis of
Pathfinder.
culture. Work should lead to Scola. Contemplation. Yeah, I think that goes back to Socrates, right? And probably further back. That was the sort of Athenian cultural assumption, even at the time of Socrates, even independent from.
Pathfinder, someone is attempting to access your comm unit. Should I patch it through?
Go ahead.
Hello, you're a Pathfinder,
Sinkhole.
right? I recognize your receiver ID. I need help. I'm in the sinkhole. It's the one with... I'm sure you'll figure it out.
Hi! What are you doing down here? But yeah, the idea that work, that labor is only extrinsically good, that you wouldn't work if it weren't for what you need to acquire by working. That is, I think, the classical view, and I think that
Oh, good. You
that
heard
leads
me.
to a kind of...
I was starting to think I'd have to walk back to that rundown shack they call a landing zone.
What are you doing out here?
a kind of...
I'm a scientist from the Nexus.
the right understanding
I've been
of
surveying
leisure.
Eladin's geography for several weeks now. And now I'm stranded on this hellhole.
I think that we can take from the Catholic view that labor, that work, the productive work, the direction of creation, the co-creating with God, all of that stuff. That is a good. That's good. That's important. But also, I think that we should understand that leisure is not just this Protestant idea. That leisure is sort of refueling our batteries or recharging our batteries so we can get back to work. That's ridiculous. That's a terrible way of looking at leisure. Leisure is intrinsically good. It is what we are pursuing, right? We don't play so that we have more energy to work. No, we work so that we can play. I think that the classical Greeks got that absolutely right, and it's an important thing for us to remember because it's so easy for us to fall into. Well, why do you? It's so easy to fall into things like, well, why do you, for example, sit down and play video games? Well, it's so I can relax, so I can get back to work tomorrow, right? No, it's not. That's ridiculous. It's absolutely absurd. Of course, it's not. It's leisure. It's an end in itself. It's enjoyable. That's it. The only answer you need, the only answer you might have. It's fine, because it's the only answer you need. The only answer that makes sense. It's the end that you are pursuing is leisure, enjoyment. Nothing wrong with that. No, it's not the highest end, obviously. But it's an end. It's an intrinsic end. And I think that, again, the classical Greeks, Socrates among them, absolutely got this right. And it's a shame when we lose track of that.
Tell me what I can do to help you.
Glad you asked. A few days ago, my shuttle overheated and died. Then I ran out of water. After 2 days without a drop, I got desperate. Ended up trading a part from my ship to some scavengers. Once the delirium subsided, I realized my mistake. Turns out I sold them my thruster, which you need to fly.
God, that's horrible. That's really bad. Actually, that point I was making, that actually relates to when we were with Liam earlier in the stream, probably over an hour ago at this point. I think it was like 40 or something. When he sets up the soccer game at Prodromos, and Ryder is like, man, yeah, no, we really need to do this sort of thing, so to forget about our troubles, so we can keep working. And Liam's like, no, this is what we're here for. This is living. Right? It's these pointless little things that this is why we're here. This is what life is. It's not so that we can get on with living. No, this is living. And man, he's so right on that. I think he's absolutely right about that. Tom says, sure, but play needs to be defined. I'd argue that leisure is contemplation of God, not playing games per se. That is, I think, the highest form of leisure, but anything enjoyable, so long as it isn't intrinsically disordered, is still play, is still leisure. Something that is even a, I think we can even say as a, I hate the term diversion, because that seems like it's, or even pastime, because that seems like it's just something that we do that is distracting us from reality. This is not that I think that's not the case. Leisure is something we do for fun. It's play. I think it's as simple as that. It's something that is entertaining. It's something that we enjoy, not for the sake of anything else. It is simply a mere intrinsic good, something that is not good for anything further, but it is good for its own sake and nothing more. I think that contemplation of God is, I think, the highest act of leisure. To call that leisure is sort of weird and almost anathema in today's society, just because that means that seems to mean like contemplation of God is unnecessary and it's for something else. But that's an indication of how we see leisure as lower than we ought to. I think that's it's the highest form of leisure, but it's not the only form by any stretch.
The Tempest can get you back to the Nexus in no time.
And leave my ship here to be picked apart. If I leave, that shuttle needs to come with me. I figure since you're a Pathfinder, maybe you can talk to the scavengers. Get that part back.
I'll have that thruster for you in no time.
Helpful and efficient.
I'm
like
sure I'll
that.
have to go talk with my gun.
I'll give you the nav point for the camp. Be ready. They're a prickly bunch.
Are you studying the sinkholes here?
I'm trying to figure out what causes them.
Any luck?
My scans show a high concentration of calcium carbonate deep below us, high enough to create pockets of brittle rock. These pockets break down and collapse, and it causes a chain reaction all the way to the surface. Incidentally, that would also account for all this sand.
Have you learned anything useful about Eladin?
That depends on what you consider useful.
Try me.
Well, I assume you know Eladin receives constant sunlight. There is no nighttime. But I've found evidence of a rare temperature dip, which means the planet experiences an occasional eclipse. Can you imagine? Constant blazing sun for years, then a week of night. It must be jarring.
Good luck out here.
How in the hell does a planet, not a region, a planet, experience constant sunlight? That makes
There'll
no
be scavengers
sense.
ahead, if the sun didn't get them first.
Pathfinder, this area can be mined for resources. You can extract minerals via your mining interface.
Okay, we'll go here, then we'll go here.
By the way, our term for a loved one is tailshay.
It is?
I thought you or Ryder might like to know.
Thanks, Joe.
Well, at least he knows.
Smoke in the distance. Probably the crashed ship we're looking for.
At least he knows what's going on. He's not oblivious. That's good.
Cat killing other cat?
They really are going all out.
Interesting. That's it, right? Are there more? Oh, there's a Karkin. Or a Wraith, whatever.
That's all of them.
There we go. With the freakish pulsing here. There we go.
What's this?
It appears to be a cat data log, Pathfinder. It may contain saved data of some variety.
Can we access this data, Sam?
The device is locked.
When has a simple lock ever stopped you, Sam? Come on, hack this thing.
Pathfinder, it is not just a simple lock. We have never encountered a cat device with security like this before. I suggest we bring it back to the Tempest for further analysis.
Suvi might be able to figure it out.
Why Suvi? I mean, okay, but I don't know. It seems odd. Okay, let's before we do that, let's go here. So, barely relatedly, thinking back when I was talking about how I think some ideas are so bad that that the only reasonable explanation is demons. Talking about how crowds, mobs, groups are effectively demons. How the group itself
This should
is
be the camp.
functionally
Where are
demonic.
the scavengers?
That I think that if that is the case, I think it is. I think it is certainly the case that groups as such represent demonic action or angelic action, broadly speaking. Because I think that a group acting can also be acting the will of an angel, but a sort of an unfallen angel.
It appears he's been dead for several hours, Pathfinder.
Cerebral hemorrhage?
But who killed him?
Beaten to death. Okay. Interesting. I don't think I like this. I'm gonna keep the gun out.
Pathfinder, I detect movement. Someone is behind that door.
What am I supposed to scan over?
Residue indicates this crate once held weapons, but it's now empty.
No weapons on the dead scavengers either.
Hi. What's this?
Analysis of alcohol content reveals it was brewed here on Eladon.
Made here? Out of what?
It's probably safer if you don't know, Pathfinder.
Anyway, so if that is the case, right? If it is the case that that mobs are demon possessed, if that is a sort of angelic action, if you will, then that means that I think it would be fair to call the manipulation of a mob. I think it would be fair to call that sort of thing something like sorcery. Then what you're doing is you are pulling on something like arcane forces psychology, mob psychology, to influence the demonic as a way of controlling human beings, individual human beings. So I think like Alinskyite.
Let's talk this out.
Oh, interesting. Alinskyite mob manipulation tactics. All that is that's dark magic. I think that is a perfectly reasonable way of looking at it, and I think that is literal, not just symbolic. Maybe I'm wrong. I think I'm right. This is again one of those ideas that might need to cook a bit. It's something more like a hypothesis than a solid theory. Because again, I think that there are potential issues with it, but the only way to figure out those issues is to take it seriously, take it into battle, so to speak, take the idea into battle and really go for it. Which incidentally, this is that fast horses thing I was talking about. I mentioned this briefly much earlier. Is that in Plato's Republic, when he's talking about the allegory of the city as allegory of the soul, he says that the young guardians to be are to be sent to battle on fast horses. And the reason for this is that if the battle starts turning the wrong way, that the fast horses can allow them to escape. They can run away quickly, and that's an odd thing to specify, because I guess it makes sense politically speaking. You want your future leaders to survive old enough to become leaders and to actually learn from the combat experience, right? Okay, fair enough. But if we are to make the assumption, and I think this is a warranted assumption, this is following CDC Reeve, a Plato scholar, that everything about the civic aspects of the Republic is really just a the civic aspects of the Republic are just an allegory for the psychological aspects, the moral psychology, right? That's the thesis. I think it's correct. If that's the case, what the hell is with this putting the young guardians on fast horses? My argument is that is basically the equivalent of you should test out new ideas in a relatively safe environment, in a way that you are capable of backing out of the argument. Put forward the new idea, but if it gets challenged, don't let it just die. Retreat. So the idea can then learn from those confrontations without being completely killed by those confrontations. And I think that is a good way of approaching, testing new ideas that may be correct, but you're not so sure of yet. They're not quite capable of defending themselves.
You want to tell me why you were sneaking around in there?
You saw the camp. When Axius comes, the only thing to do is hide.
Who?
You haven't heard of him? Axius leads the meanest gang on Eladon. They run raids on other scavenger camps, never leave anyone alive. Last night, they picked our camp. I was lucky enough to find a hiding place. Been in there ever since.
Your gang bought a thruster from a scientist recently. I want it back.
That piece of junk? Didn't even fit our ship. Axios must have taken it. He took everything. You can try getting it back from him if you have a death wish. I'll even give you the nav point.
You've been surprisingly helpful.
Hey, we're not all bad. Some of us just got unlucky. Oh, one more thing. If you see Axios, shoot first. He's not a talker.
What is he? I assume he's a Krogan. I was right nearby. I wonder if maybe that's why he picked your camp, because you're right next door.
Outlaw camp ahead.
What do we have here?
You're not a Krogan?
Armor. Kill him.
What?
I detect multiple life forms, Pathfinder. Likely Axios and his scavengers. Records indicate Axios has multiple bounties on his head. Be careful, Pathfinder.
You are fighting you. Tough one. I like it.
There we go.
Tough one. I like it.
Oh, he's a Turian. Okay.
Sniper, stay down. Enemy prime. Giving shield assist.
Oh, that was excellent. Dodge and slash. Oh, there he is. Oh, that's not him. Not him at all. Got him. Did I kill Axios? Did I kill him? I didn't think I killed him, but okay.
This appears to be the thrust catalyzer from Nora's ship.
Finally. Let's get it back to her.
Okay. Let's go. Honestly, I was expecting a Krogan after they were all beaten to death thing. Hi, scavengers. Whoop! Bad sinkhole. That one's a death one.
Pathfinder, this area can be mined for resources.
Where?
You can extract minerals
sinkhole.
via your mining interface.
Yeah, a lot of these sinkholes are actually quite dangerous because it's still unfathomably hot.
Well, we found where the outlaws are
Most
camped.
of them. Yeah, whatever, I don't care. Nora.
Yes?
I got your ship's thruster back. Well, catalyzer. Same thing.
Seriously? I wasn't sure you'd pull it off.
Your work helps the colonization efforts. Least I could do.
Glad somebody appreciates me. Well, I'll install this and be on my way. I've got a lot of planet to cover.
Be careful out there.
Right. I hadn't thought of that. Thanks for the rescue, Pathfinder.
After all that, you're gonna sass me? Yeah, okay. Alright. Gotta go back to the Tempest.
Hello? It's almost unbelievable that some of the Ket would be fighting their own. The Ket always seemed so monolithic, almost faceless.
I wish we saw more of that fighting. Wouldn't shed a tear if they wiped themselves out.
Whatever they've done, they're still a unique, fascinating species. It's hard for me to wish them all dead.
They're a virus. I wish them all dead.
Anyway, about this Ket device you found by their destroyed ship. It's secured with a biometric lock that can only be activated with a specific genetic code.
Wow. So, like a fingerprint scan, except with a genetic fingerprint.
Exactly. Whatever's in this, it's probably only meant for trusted individuals.
So you're saying I have to track down some Ket?
But that would be impossible, Ryder. Remember those Ket genetic samples you scanned on Volt? Lexi's been working on the data, and I have an idea that just might work. We should go talk with her when you have time.
Okay. Cool. Let's see what we can do here, then. I wish sliding down ladders were that easy in real life.
Got your memo, Suvi. Data's right here, but I'm not sure what you're expecting to find.
Tell me you have it all sequenced.
Yes, of course. It was the first thing I...
Perfect. Sam, can you test combinations of sequences against the lock?
Testing.
Brute force, Dr. Anwar?
Tried and true methods. And with Sam's processing speed, it should take no time.
Key found.
Whoa.
There you go.
We thought it was a data log, but it's not. It's...
It just locked onto a transmission.
Does it compromise our security?
The device is a receiver. It will not reveal our location.
This transmission is audio.
The Archon has abandoned our way, spurns tradition, defies protocol. He abuses his authority, obsesses over Remnant secrets, and keeps us cut off from home. This cannot continue. He will return to the path of right or be destroyed. This is my promise. An Archon stands tall only while we hold him up.
Someone's gunning for the Archon. I'd say that's something we can exploit.
That is potentially
don't mean-
dangerous, though.
Try to make some kind of deal.
Don't know yet. What else is in the transmission?
It's the same stuff. It repeats. I wonder if there's a way to trace the signal. Scanning for nav point. I'll transmit it to your Omni tool in case you want to check it out.
What do you think we'll find out there?
I do want to
I
check
don't
out.
know. It might be a base of Ket dissidents organizing against the Archon.
Whatever it is, please be careful, Ryder.
Yeah, potentially dangerous. Because we would be allying with a with someone more aligned with the ordinary radical ideology of the Ket, of just their ordinary means of expansion through basically virology. So that's bad. But I don't know, it might be less bad than the Archon and his odd obsession with the Remnant and his hope to use the terraforming of the vaults as a terroristic weapon of mass destruction. Aya, wait, why did I go to Aya? Eos. That was weird. Fine, but weird. Why did I go to Aya? Who knows what's going on in my brain sometimes.
Home of Eos and Prodromos.
Callow, I know that. You don't need to say it. Okay. Let's go. Now let's keep it the cat one. Cora? Yeah, that's still good.
Descent is green.
Coordinating. Path is calm.
No, I also have to say, so there's a really good principle in spaceship design, sci-fi spaceship design. It's that it should always have an immediately recognizable silhouette, because the kind of simplicity that sort of designing lends itself to is eye-catching and memorable. And that's why, for example, I know George Lucas, in creating Star Wars, that's why he selected some of the designs that he did from Macquarie's sketches.
You can extract minerals via your mining
and all the more so from... Oh, right, it's underneath here. Okay. All the more so why he selected the ones that he did, looking at the concept art for the prequels. Because it is very silhouette based, and I think that is a headlights. I think that is a
Loot from our outposts and an Ark escape pod. Where did they get that?
Doesn't matter. They're not keeping it.
We need an up-close scan.
Come on. I think that is also a good way of looking at the design of the Tempest, particularly in comparison to the Normandy, because the Tempest has a very unique profile. Like it looks just wonderfully unique, but also it's very reminiscent of the Normandy. The sort of swept back arrowhead design is very reminiscent of the Normandy, which is an absolutely iconic ship. It's so intrinsically associated with this series, with Mass Effect, with the world of Mass Effect, that it is that of course you're going to want to sort of borrow some of that iconography, and I think that the Tempest manages to do a good job borrowing that iconography while still sort of developing it. Right? It doesn't just copy the Normandy, but it's similar enough in its design principles, in its sort of outlines, so that it is absolutely recognizable at a glance.
But there's nothing here, just this beacon.
But recognizable at a glance in a way that it is still pleasantly familiar. You know?
The true location of the transmission will be hidden.
Which is, I'm always singing the praises of the Tempest. I really like the ship design. I don't like that it's unarmed.
Pathfinder,
That's annoying.
I have located another node on this network. Updating your...
But
Omni
if we
tool
set
with the
that aside,
information.
it is a very cool design. It's a gorgeous design. And it's a very Mass Effect design because of its similarity. In large part due to its similarity to the Normandy. Not exclusively. But I think that is a large part of why it's such a good iconic design.
I am Victor. Another variant. Solarian. Reflexes were impressive.
Duran, he R11 Holor. In need of assistance.
No longer aware of where it is. Dispose of it.
Hope the rest of the Ket aren't like him.
Yeah, they mostly are. So there's that.
Signs of Ket still linger. There's no getting rid of them.
These caves could be a good shelter, if people need it.
Watching the corners.
Very cool. Oh, there's another cave system. These are really cool caves. I like this.
My senses are detecting Ket technology, Pathfinder.
Not anymore, they're not. I blew it all up. Well, I didn't. I killed all the cat. I didn't actually blow it. Never mind. I was wrong. Ooh. What, are they up above here now? What is this? That's bullshit. There we go. What in the hell?
See where this beacon leads us.
Ordinary. That was quick to blow up.
Pathfinder, I have located another node on this network. Updating your Omni tool with the information.
Okay. At least one more relay. But that's also, I will say, that is also how you get just absolutely genius designs. Just genius sci-fi spaceship designs, like the X-Wing and the TIE Fighter. Like, if you see an X-Wing or a TIE Fighter in silhouette, you know exactly what you're looking at.
The Black Rock signal comes and goes. You've evened out the weather, but I wouldn't call reception clear. EOS still feels frontier. Claim, but not tame, we like to say.
But yeah, I think that the silhouettes are so recognizable, which is especially what you want in sort of in a space battle, in a dogfight. Right? You want to be able to identify and separate out the good guy ships and bad guy ships like that. Well, from a practical standpoint, like an in-universe practical standpoint, like that's actually very useful to be able to tell who the bad guys are, to who to shoot. But then also for the viewer, for the audience, right, in terms of fiction, you want to be able to figure out like who's on which side at an immediate glance. And X-Wing and TIE Fighter are they're so radically distinct from each other, and also, while still also they are so incredibly recognizable. They're just a great pair of designs.
Looks like that's it for hostiles.
Taken care of.
Let's see what this beacon has for us.
I need ammo as well.
Pathfinder, I have located another node on this network.
One more
Updating
relay.
your Omni tool with the information.
Man. They're really about security here. They're basically doing a Tor network here.
We lost a lot of worlds to the Scourge. Seeing one more or less reclaimed is strange.
Good kind of strange, I think. Ooh. Remnant thingy.
Pathfinder.
I have not explored here.
This area can be mined for resources. You can extract minerals via your mining interface.
What in the world happened there? Whoops. I blew myself up a little bit. It's okay. I only blew myself up a little bit. Alright, nothing to worry about here. Oh, except for that guy. He's still alive.
Giving shield assist.
There we
Nice
go.
headshot.
That was not a headshot.
Pathfinder, this area can be mined for resources. You can extract minerals via your mining interface.
I hope your colonists don't just work. These worlds need normal life.
Yes! Thank you, Jal. I absolutely could not agree more. Oh boy, they're all mad at me. Let's just keep going. I dropped off a mining probe and then just buzzed on by.
Nice work.
Cat
Alright.
signals detected ahead, Pathfinder.
Well, where? I'm gonna have to go up to around. I'm gonna go up around the long.
That remnant site will have defenses.
Not worried. I see. They're up there on that bluff. All right. I think I've gone up there before. Quite the task to get up there. Ooh, there's a bunch of them.
As high as we climb, it feels like there's so much more out there.
The Black Rock feels old. Good to remember we're the new ones.
The remnants change worlds, but places like this feel solid.
Those cats? No, those are trees. Those are not cat. Huh, where are the cat? Odd. Have I come here before and killed them all? Do they not just respawn? It's odd. Huh. Eat it. Eat it. Okay, cool.
The transmission is strong and unobstructed here, Pathfinder.
Looks like we found it then.
Excellently done. We're not alone.
No. Echoes.
Bolstering all shields.
There we go. Oh, oh. Oh, thanks, Jal.
On the move.
See, Jal actually kills something. Kills some things sometimes, which is more than I can say for a lot of the campaign. He's quite useful.
Dead.
Yeah, I killed them all, Jal. You were here for that part. You helped a lot. Of course they're all dead. We did it. Hooray. We deaded them.
Exaltation lifted our ancestors out of sorrow and tribulation. This noble gift now allows us to raise others and share in the genetic bounty of this galaxy. But the Archon would selfishly hoard what Helios has to offer.
Recorded messages?
Meant to be broadcast to the Ket, most likely.
Well, we found it. This looks like a comm console. It's probably what's sending out the messages.
All that work, and this is all we get? And so you have found me. You are a single-minded creature, Pathfinder. I see it now. Your determination will grant the Ket dominion over this galaxy.
Not on my watch, asshole.
This posturing benefits no one. Our confrontation is inevitable, not imminent. I did not reveal myself as a traitor easily. I did so only because I seek a mutual benefit.
Getting rid of the Archon.
The Archon's obsession with the Remnant incites chaos and endangers all we've worked for. This must end.
I take it you need my help for this?
I am Ket. I do not need help. I would use you as a tool to hasten the Archon's destruction.
Okay.
I need
That's what you
only
have to tell
ensure
yourself.
nothing stands between you and your target. Once he is cut down, the Remnant will cease to be a concern. We will complete our purpose here and leave. Exalting the Ankara. One day you will be family. Till then, fight if you must. But I offer a reprieve from this conflict, so you can destroy a mutual enemy.
It'll give us an ace in our back pocket. Just make sure the gun's loaded when we use it.
The Ket cannot be trusted. Ryder, think.
Yeah, so here's, I mean, the Ket are, and we see this from him, her, or it, or whatever this is, that the Ket's sort of political ideology is one of them is strictly imperialism. It is the integration of the other into our collective whole. It is that kind of imperialism that we were talking about earlier with respect to the you can have whatever particular individuality that you want so long as it is subsumed by and oriented towards the collective union. And they do it at a very basic, even sort of genetic and biological level. They're effectively spreading, like I keep saying, they effectively spread like a virus. They have the political ideology of a virus, which is really threatening. That's a really interesting major antagonist that I actually really like for sci-fi. Let's see.
Why do you oppose the Archon?
The Archon says he will use Meridian to dominate this cluster. He says Meridian will bring us victory. We have never needed Remnant to be victorious. No, he wants more. His ambition is plain. I am not alone in this thought.
What exactly do I get from this deal?
Sometime soon, I will be called upon by the Archon to destroy you. When that time arrives, I will provide you with the means to disable my ship.
Or you could just leave me alone.
And should you fail to bring down the Archon, my treachery will be exposed.
Kit manipulation at its finest.
Fine. It seems like we lose nothing from this exchange, except perhaps replacing the Archon, who is dangerous, with the rest of the Ket Empire, which is extremely dangerous. But we're going to do that anyway, because we have to kill the Archon. So, fine.
Fine. Anything that'll help me kill the Archon.
During our next clash, I shall lower my ship's defenses and allow you to use a kill code to disable it. I have transmitted the code to the console in this room. I bid you goodbye, Pathfinder. We will not speak again.
Okay, then. I don't see how that could be a trap, but maybe.
The Archon does not serve Ket interests, only his own. He wastes our time on the Remnant, but keeps all knowledge for himself. These are the acts of a traitor, not true Ket.
I mean, it could be a sort of trap where we are going, where we'd be sort of lured into a conflict with the promise of an easy victory, and then only afterwards it turns out that victory is not so assured, or something like that. Maybe, but this seems like it's a conflict that they would be initiating, not one that we would be, electing to pursue or anything like that. So yeah, I don't quite see how this could reasonably be a trap. But I see no downside to taking this deal, not really. Like, even if I don't trust the Ket at all, which I don't. I mean, it would be very stupid to trust the Ket even at all. Even assuming that, though... even assuming that, it doesn't seem like there's anything that they could do with this arrangement that they couldn't just do without. So again, it doesn't seem like it's a real problem. Yeah. Oh, good. Thanks, guys. Okay. Anything else? What else we got? Oh my god. Are we actually gonna get back to the main plot next? We might actually get back to the main plot next week. Strike it. Maybe I can do that later. Don't need to. These are all of these bonus tasks that. What wildlife are we missing? Oh, right. I should do that. All these other ones are collection quests. This one is actually a quest line. I want to go do this, and then we'll wrap it up.
Ascent is go.
This is one of those things. Karatadesa is one of those journalists that give journalists an undue good name. Al-Jilani, I think, was a much
Right.
better representation of the journalists aren't quite people kind of thing. Kind of close to reality sort of thing. Now that said, all that said, I think that there is a good ideal of journalism, but that is the investigative sort. It's the sort of thing that is almost absent today, outside of like the O'Keefe Media Group and that sort of thing. James O'Keefe and his thing. But it's basically absent from professional journalism. The journalists are by and large enemies of people, enemies of all of everyone who is not immediately in power, that sort of thing. It's so nice to see 3 of them docked. It's so unfortunate that we don't have a 4th one, and we won't because the Turian one was basically destroyed. Now that is the exception being, of course, the possibility of the Quarian arc, which was supposed to be DLC, but didn't happen, unfortunately. Because this game got memed to death, depressingly. Yeah, what's her name? Emily Wong was a great example of a good journalist in the original trilogy.
Got a sec?
As opposed to Al-Jilani, who we just punching her is the only good option.
Hakeem, Kerry's producer. I'm the one making you look stunning for the documentary.
Thanks,
There's a
Hakeem.
hitch. Kerry's been arrested for conspiracy to incite unrest. She's in a cell at the militia headquarters. Any chance you could stop by? A visit from you might shake things up. Remember, Kerry's down in the militia cells.
I don't care what she says.
I mean, this is also one of those I guess a stereotype, albeit a perhaps somewhat delusional stereotype of the set upon journalist. The journalist that is the journalist that is persecuted for doing her job, for exposing the powerful, that sort of thing, which is what journalists should be doing, but all too often don't. Some of those things are here. Okay, let's do this, and then we'll wrap it there.
The initiative has found the Solarian Ark. Reports suggest Perchero was intercepted by Ket forces in the Defino system. Reached for comment, officials refused to
I mean, it's actually quite similar to what philosophers ought to be doing, which is, speaking truth to power, commitment to truth above any sort of political affiliation or anything like that. The kind of thing that Socrates was executed for. But again, a lot of modern academics, philosophers, and otherwise tend to be puppets for the regime, whatever that regime might be, because it's a cushy gig.
Oh, hey, Ryder.
Hakeem
choice
said they
theory has a lot
arrested
to
you
say
over
about
the
that, so.
documentary.
Guess I tweaked the lion's tail too hard.
You had to tell the truth, whatever the cost. You did what was right.
You know, they've had other people in the cells. Rioters, people crying and scared. Me and my truth did that to them.
Imprisoning a vidmaker for her work seems historic. Too bad no one recorded it.
They took my camera. But I was scribbling a few notes. Maybe I could use this. Thanks for coming, Ryder. I'll send word if anything changes.
All right. Well, we are right here, next to the next main story quest. So I think that's what we will start off with next week. So yeah, we should be all set to do to actually advance the main story once again next week. We had a perfect one stream's worth of various side quests, and then next week is on to back, or I guess back to the real main story quest, and then probably some more side quests because you know how these sorts of games go. Anyway, that is about all the time we got. It is about midnight. Thank you all so much for joining me. I had a wonderful time. I really do love this game, despite all of its flaws. I really do. It is, I think, a good continuation of Mass Effect. It was a great launching off point for a new spin-off series, but kind of fell flat, unfortunately. Anyway, I hope you're enjoying yourselves as much as I am. I hope you join me again. One more reminder that, first of all, feel free to throw some money down there at ko-fi.com/Professor McCoy. Any little bit really does help me continue doing what I'm doing. It really does, and I appreciate each and every one of you who contribute. And then also, I would really like to get to 1,000 subscribers. And if and when I finally do, I've been thinking about having a little treat for everybody. An old video of mine that I made ages ago that I've been thinking about improving, polishing up a bit, and having it ready for a sort of more general release. So more details as we get a little closer, perhaps. It is something that I greatly enjoyed doing at the time, a very long time ago, and I think it's something that you guys will enjoy quite a bit as well. If you guys do, if you can help me get to 1,000 subscribers, every little bit helps. Like, subscribe, share, do all that fun stuff. Share my other videos as well, my actual video videos. I really appreciate that. So, anyway. Thank you all one more time for joining me. Good night, everyone. I'll see you all next time. We are going to be streaming Kingdom Come Deliverance on Wednesday. We might finish this week. I'm told probably not, though, so it probably will be next week. And then, again, schedule permitting, we will be right back here in Mass Effect Andromeda to advance the main plot next Monday. So, thank you one more time. Remember, don't be safe, be well, and more importantly, be good. Good night, everyone.